I'm a cradle Catholic and grew up learning that we have to be like God to enter heaven. Why are people named saints sometimes long after they've passed? Aren't all people who have gone straight to heaven or been purged in purgatory saints? So there's a question. You know, our Holy Father recently named another 7 saints, I think over this past weekend as it is. So what does it mean to be in heaven with among the saints and to be named officially a saint?
Well, you know, with respect to heaven, of course, Jesus uses the image of heaven as, you know, a messianic banquet, right, where, you know, you actually, your love is brought to perfection so perfectly that you can enjoy and see everyone as they are in a kind of a perfect authenticity. And of course, they can see you as you are in perfect authenticity. And it's, you know, you're sitting at this dinner table, but there's never going to be an argument, right? I mean, everything is literally in perfect transparency, perfect goodness, the perfect vision of the other, along with the beatific vision of God. And of course, for Jesus, it's the, you know, it becomes perfect joy. I tell you all these things, he says in the Gospel of John, that my joy may be yours and your joy may be complete. Now, what's implied by that notion of heaven? Well, what's implied is that people's love has been brought to perfection. That is to say, there's no narcissism in there anymore. There's no egocentricity in there anymore, right, that could obscure our vision of other people or cause jealousies or envies or arrogance or vanity. I mean, it's gone. All the ways we could obscure the vision of the other person, we can see them in their pure, unique goodness, lovability, as being made in the image of God in this unique way. We can see them as they are, and they can see us as we are, because they too, their love has been brought to perfection. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means that, you know, for all intents and purposes, you know, there's nothing in us, right? What's called purification in the Catholic Catechism. There's nothing in us that needs to be purified in order for us to love like that, to not have any of those 7 deadly sins kind of interrupting us. But if we're going to get to that state of not having greed or anger or envy or vanity or pride or arrogance, right, or you know, any of these other things getting in the way my relationship not only with God but with other people in the heavenly kingdom, I'm going to have to choose in some way to move beyond it, right? God can't, as it were, force it out of us. We have to, in a way, become purified, which is a very, very good state. Purification doesn't mean, you know, getting punished. It means literally learning, and sometimes it's painful to let go. And to let go of angers or grudges, or to let go of anger itself, or to let go of greed itself, or to let go of, you know, vanity itself. It's hard to let go. And so the process of purification is not heavenly. This is what takes place in purgatory, right? But essentially, in order for us to get to that heavenly kingdom, where we can enjoy that perfect love relationship, where eternity can become truly a transparent love relationship with God and others, which would be the most non-boring thing, the most joy-filled thing, right? I mean, just imagine the times when you had the best time with your family or with your friends sitting around a table, I don't know, at maybe Christmas or whatever, and you didn't have any of the arguments, you didn't have any of the petty jealousies, you had nothing obscure. I mean, it was just one of those perfect conditions, and then finally, you know, somebody looks at his watch and goes, you know, yike, you know, it's 2 in the morning. Where did the time go? And for all intents and purposes, that would be what is, you know, causing us then to, you know, to have to be purified.
Right.
And that purification has to take place within the confines of our freedom. God's going to help us, right? But to do that. But we're going to have to choose it. And so it may take time, and it may be painful. We're going to have to give up something we might have cherished, or something that became an inordinate attachment to us. And that purification, we call purgatory, then would precede getting into heaven. Now, with respect to saints, what we mean by that is their love has been purified, and that they're ready to go. That is to say, that they're not being bothered anymore, right, by jealousy or vanity or greed or anger. It's gone. Their purification has taken place in this world. And so it takes time for the Vatican to find out whether that has really occurred or not. And so they try as best they can to ascertain whether that kind of love relationship is going to be feasible for them, and if so, they have to verify it by some miracles, right? That's sort of getting God's seal of approval on it, and then once that whole process has taken place, which can take time, and it depends when a cause comes up before the Vatican as well, which can even take time. And so it does take time for that to happen, and that's why sometimes you see a 100-year, 200-year.
Right.
They may have absolutely been ready to go.
Right.
It just took the Vatican a long time to figure out
Now,
that was the case, that there weren't any impediments,
right,
and that God is giving His seal by those miracles.
Right, and we're not. Let me ask you this question. I'm thinking about what you're saying in a sense. Let's think about somebody from 100 years ago, and they finally get the case and they look at it. Now, it's not the idea that somehow this person died, went to purgatory, and by now they must be in heaven. They would have had to have demonstrated that they were already purified 100 years ago when they died, right?
That's right.
Okay.
That's exactly correct. And it just takes a long time to verify that in some cases. In the case of St. John Paul II, or in the case of Mother Teresa, it just didn't. I mean, it was very clear that they had been purified. I mean, Mother Teresa's last days, which she spent with so many people. I mean, she broke out of a real time of what's called dark night of the soul. And she broke out of that. I mean, she just was in a state of real joy. It was very clear, almost giddy as a child, very, very clear that she, was kind of purged from whatever, might have inhibited a pure state of love from taking place. And off she went, and people believe. And same thing with St. John Paul II, it was very clear. I mean, it wasn't, he went through his suffering, and he went through his purgation, and I'm sure all of that suffering, I'm absolutely certain of it, led to his purification. And of course, the miracles in both cases were easily authenticated, and they were able to do it very, very quickly. But in some cases, it just takes a much longer time.
Right.